Casey interview. A, B, C marker. Soft sticks.
Why talk to me now when you're not getting creative control?
I just need someone to be willing to listen. And I've spent the last 10 years making sure that I knew who I was, that I started to cope with this loss, and that I had something to say to make my daughter proud, but also to honor her properly. And this is part of that. It's hard because 1,000 questions go through my head. I'm responsible for answering everyone in the world's questions about her, about what happened. I still don't know. What happened to Kaylee? I know what I'm afraid of. I know what eats at me at night. I know what eats at me day after day. Because I know what I lived through.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
So we often on the show will tell you we are not psychologists. We're not doctors of psychology, but we are technical people who use all of the learnings from psychology in what we do. Chase will talk about profiling. I'll call it targeting. What we do is we look for symptoms in behavior and how a person demonstrates who they are. Then we take that and we think, which of our tools will work best on that? So we're targeting those people based on behaviors. And then we know because we've got a lot of experience in what works on people with these symptoms. So if you hear us say things like borderline personality disorder, narcissism, then you know we are not pretending to be psychiatrists. We're just telling you what we're seeing and how we would use it. So let's talk in the beginning about what we first see. Residuals occur when a person uses their face a lot, one way or another. It's why we use Botox to relieve these muscles. You can see a lot of this in Casey Anthony, which means she uses her forehead a lot. And we're going to expect to see that. It might be in a demeaning kind of a way. It might be in some other kind of way, but we'll look for it. We also then want to look for things that she's doing that are out of the norm or outside of what we refer to as a baseline. Now, this is a lot of rehearsed stuff. We're going to see it, but we'll talk about it as we go through. When she's showing concern and angst when they're asking her about questions and holding her shoulders up very quickly, that means that she is starting to try to deliver a message. And when she says someone willing to listen, and as I would say, we're always willing to listen, call us, we'd love to interview you. Then her lips purse when she starts talking about other people's opinions. Now, it could be their lips are pursing, and when we say lips pursing, they're pushing out. That is disapproval. Could be she's disapproving of someone else's message or her own. We can't tell what's in her head, only what we can see. She says people have 1,000 questions, and then you see rage in her face. Now, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And when we say rage or anger, we see exposed teeth, that lower jaw jutting, her face twisting. We also see her bite the inside of her mouth as we go through this thing in preparation for going into those moves. When she says, I'm answering everybody's questions, is when she does that. When she says there's 1,000 questions, if you call us, I guarantee we got a couple more that didn't get answered in this show, and we'd love to hear about them. But everywhere I listen to this thing, until the very end, I hear her talk about daughter, her, and then finally she says Kaylee's name. A little bit interesting there. And then when she talks about afraid of, she does her pursed lips again. That's rejection, and the illustrators kind of fall. So we're starting right out of the gate to see a pattern of how she responds to certain kinds of questions and where she's going to show rage. Whether that's real or not, we'll figure out as well. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, let's just break this first video down into something really simple here. What are the behaviors that we're actually seeing? So as the video starts, we see these preening or hygienic gestures, which is a gesture that somebody performs when they want to improve the way they're being perceived. The only other thing that we're seeing here is a big spike in either the display of anger or the facial expression of anger. So the two prominent behaviors as we start the interview are concern for appearance and wanting someone to see anger. So displaying anger, concern with appearance, maybe those things have served her in the past, and maybe we're going to see those come up here in the next few videos in a very prominent way. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so let's look at that preening or hygienic gestures as you're talking about there. Look, we're being shown immediately that this is a film, this is a piece of entertainment. We're being shown that clapperboard. So she's preparing to be in front of the camera. So it seems reasonable at this point that we're going to see those gestures even the grooming around the mouth. What would be a problem is if we start to see that continually throughout, especially when she's given questions that should take her focus away from herself, maybe into the outside world, her daughter, a perpetrator. It should completely distract her from how she feels she's looking. So let's look out for that. Let's see if that's the last that we see of those kind of gestures. Also, you're saying there, Chase, about the anger. I think we get a collision of facial gestures there. I think we get anger, we get disgust, we get concern, and they kind of mash in all together in a bit of a kind of jumbled kind of mess. And that might be a bit of a problem as well. There's some good reasons why you might get that. But again, let's see whether that continues, because it's fairly reminiscent of an actress that we looked at quite a lot just recently in 2022, where you get these collisions of facial displays going on at the same time, because she's maybe wanting to convince, and also there's potentially a particular personality disorder there, that you often will see these collisions of facial gestures come together. So again, let's look out for both of those things. Scott, what do you got on this one?
I agree with you, Mark. I think those collisions we're seeing are expressions that aren't really real. She knows she's got to put those in specific places, so she doesn't know when to end them. She doesn't know when to begin them. So that's why they look like they're smashing together, because she's sort of trying to do these as she's thinking about it. When normal emotions come up, you'll see them, a lot of times they'll just sort of fade into them. Sometimes it's a quick fade, sometimes it's a very fast fade into them, but just don't go bang. It takes a second to get there. And that's that collision you're talking about. So I agree with you completely. And you guys are right about this whole grooming thing. She's doing her mouth, she's fixing her hair, but she's prepping because she's getting ready to be on TV and getting ready to be on video, and she knows that. After that first question, we see a little mouth compression, a little lip compression there, what I call stress mouth. But in this case, I don't think it's stress mouth, because she's not really stressed about what the answer she's going to give. She's acting like she doesn't want to give this information because this is the first time I've given it. Get ready, here it comes, because now I'm going to tell you the truth. Finally, you're going to find out what really happened and what I really think. I think that setting this up at the beginning like that, Mark, talking about the acting part of it and how they're getting ready, perfect, because that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing acting. The anger expressions she's showing, those are just acting anger expressions, because when we look at them again, we'll see that when someone's angry, here's what they usually look like. See, I can get all mad and be like, oh, get all mean-faced, and that's fine. And you can look at that and say, oh, that person, they look angry. But if you know what to look for, the main thing we'll look for is when somebody's doing this, that's fine. But if you see the whites of their eyes like that, as they're angry, that's when you got a problem with them. That's when they're going to be coming at you or doing whatever it is they're threatening to do at that point. Also, we're seeing a quick little shoulder shrug. That usually indicates someone is not sure about what they're saying, or sometimes it's a deceptive cue or deception cue, if there are other cues along with that. If I were to say, Chase, if Chase was to ask me, hey, what about so-and-so? Did you do that? And I was like, dude, I have no earthly idea. A second to a second and a half of a shoulder shrug is about what you want to see. But when they're really quick like that, the person's not thinking about what they're saying. They're not sure about it. That's what that suggests. That's what that indicates. It doesn't mean for sure, because there are no absolutes in body language. You got to keep that in mind as well. But her fake anger, as she starts that, she starts getting louder, and she starts using her diction gets a little bit clearer as she goes. Quite often when someone's really mad, their words they'll slow down and they'll get really big, and their mouth will get all big. She's trying to do that, but not quite pulling it off. So I think we're seeing a lot of acting go on here.
Casey interview. A, B, C marker. Soft sticks.
Why talk to me now when you're not getting creative control?
I just need someone to be willing to listen. And I've spent the last 10 years making sure that I knew who I was, that I started to cope with this loss, and that I had something to say to make my daughter proud, but also to honor her properly. And this is part of that. It's hard because 1,000 questions go through my head. I'm responsible for answering everyone in the world's questions about her, about what happened. I still don't know.
What?
What happened to Kaylee? I know what I'm afraid of. I know what eats at me at night. I know what eats at me day after day. Because I know what I lived through.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.